Okay. Yay. This is fun, right? I never thought, like, even a week ago I'd be teaching parenting stuff on a pandemic. Like, I mean, seriously. So I'm moving through this as much as you are. But yeah, we're excited to like throw this in a little bit, just here and there. And then we have our regular parenting classes scheduled every second Wednesday at 12 o'clock. So we just threw in this extra one a little early. So we'll talk about those as I move through this. There's several resources and several parenting classes coming up. So this one's just for this time. So of course we're all going crazy with the routine being so extremely disrupted, with kids home, number one, right? Us home, number two, and then like every dang restaurant, play place, McDonald's is closed. So I'm like, I can't take my little grandkids to the jumping place. I can't take them swimming. I can't, so all the things that, of course, all these things have just disrupted the routine. So that's what happens with the brain, is the brain goes nuts when our routine is messed up. So we're going to talk about that. So I, by the way, am a clinical therapist here at Blomquist. Like Heather said, I am a certified family life educator. And so I teach quite a bit of classes, and Zoom has gotten to be pretty standard, and my other, job, I teach court order classes and stuff like that. So it's super fun. So, okay. So I added this little PowerPoint. We won't spend too much time. It's there. Just so you know how your benefit works a little bit. Those free educational classes are on the bottom there. And of course, most of you now have figured out how to sign up for those and look for those and just be kind of informed of those. So just keep checking in on those classes when you feel like you want to sign up for any of those. Okay, so we're gonna do a little Elmo time. So I have to share my screen. So this first one is this one. So we're gonna hopefully play this. And it will work, right? It's supposed to work, right?
Oh, hello, everybody. Oh, Elmo's at home on Sesame Street with his mommy and his daddy and his goldfish Dorothy. Yeah, Elmo knows that it's hard to be away from all of your friends, but Elmo's mommy set up this video chat so we can have fun together. Yeah, Elmo and all of his Sesame Street friends are going to be here for sing-alongs and story time, learning together, and video play dates. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of virtual fun together. Virtual, that's a good word. Virtual. Virtual. Oh, here is a big virtual hug from Elmo. Elmo loves you. See you soon. Bye-bye.
So explain the unknowns and the unseens, self-discipline, the 5 R's, routine, responsibility, reassurance, reward, and resilience. So we've got, and balance. So this is how we're gonna prevent burnout. So going through these 5 R's, and then balance, where our time, energy, money goes, our physical, mental, social, and emotional balance. So this is just, we've got to explain what the unknowns and unseens do to our brain, and what happens to our kids and what happens to us when we have those things happen. So that's what I'm going to go over. And then here's a little, so this little picture here of cognitive, emotional, physical, and behavioral is what happens when we're under extreme stress and our brain doesn't really know how to react sometimes. And so of course the physiological response system, the emotional response system, the behavioral response system all happens. So if you notice, your kids are resilient in some areas, and then other areas they're going to get more irritable. They're getting having behavior because of this stress. So okay, so let's talk about the unknowns and unseens. Is everybody good now? So the unknowns and the unseen. So this is different. Okay, so think about it. We had an earthquake Wednesday. We have an unseen trauma and unseen unknowns and unseen with the earthquake and the virus. So what happens is what happens, I mean, ask yourself and ask your kids, think about it. What happens when there's just the unknown? We don't know what's going to happen. We really don't know. We can jump to conclusions, which is a thinking error. We can overgeneralize, which is a thinking error. We can be a black and white thinker, which is a thinking error. Because that's what happens is we go to the overgeneralizing, or when we don't know what's going to happen. So we don't know. Now we know a little bit more. The kids aren't going to go back to school till May 1st, or we know that we're going to be doing this, and we know that mom's going to be home from work, or whatever. But what happens is we really don't know, and then we can't see it. So with the brain, try to wrap your head around your brain about the unseen. So if you can see that your car is mangled and someone was in a car accident, and that's why you have a stiff neck and why you're hurt, then you can see why that trauma happened and why you hurt. But everyone looks pretty normal. Everyone seems pretty normal. My teacher's healthy, my mom's healthy, my dad's healthy, my grandma's okay, but I can't see them and I can't go to McDonald's, So it's just weird, right? And so what happens is we can have this unseen trauma, and the first one is a month long. It's short term. It's only for 1 month, and that's an acute stress. So we have this acute stress that happens on the brain. And then if it goes longer than a month and you have side effects and behavior because of it, so you can't sleep, you're having more anxiety attacks, or you're having behavior or more depression, for example, then it goes into an adjustment now. So an adjustment is a 6-month period. So if we go into this for 6 months, it's not treated, and it goes with the unknowns and the unseens for 6 months, it can turn into a chronic stress, which is post-traumatic. So it's like, here's the traumatic stress, right? Here's the earthquake, or here's the virus, for example. And now what's happening in the next month, and then what happens in the next 6 months is crucial. So trauma emotion of loss, grief, and powerless is the unseen and as unseen versus seen. So here's the trauma of an emotion: loss, grief, and trauma. I mean, we can count up all the losses of what's happening right now. Like we, can't go to the gym, can't do this, can't do that. And so here's all the loss. And then we're just trying to figure out what power we have over that. So what do? We figure something else out, right? So our brain has to take power back. And so that's the biggest thing about a trauma with the emotion of the loss, grief, and powerless, is how do we get back the power? Because there's still loss and grief. There's still going to be that happening. But how do we can gain back power? And that's how we get out of the crisis. And how we get through the traumatic event. So we're going to go over how we do that. And so here's some 5 R's, just a little bit of explaining of this routine. So number 1 is routine, then responsibility, reassurance, reward, and resilience. Okay, so routine, of course, right? So of course our routine has been pretty messed up, right? I would love to have like a discussion on what ideas you guys have had. So maybe at the end, think about this question. What have you done to maintain the routine? At first, it was kind of like, we can have pajama time. We can have sleep in time. We can have cereal in front of the TV, because we don't have to be to school or work. And that's okay for a minute. But what happens is we've got to regain a routine. So everything is much the same in the brain as it was before. The same time you wake up, the same time you get ready for school, you're dressed, and then you can add a little bit more creativity into that because we have time. So you have to find new traditions, play, and creativity. So what happens in the brain is when you're creative, your depressive side of the brain will not light up, okay? So later I'm going to give you some tips on what we're going to do about creative and playtime. But we need that. We need to just be focused on play and creative. because that's the opposite of, your depressive brain won't light up. So we're going to try to stimulate that. We've got to send dopamine and serotonin to our brain. We got to move, we got to be creative, and that's what that does. So responsibility, last month, I did the Love and Logics, kind of a parenting type of parenting. Was one of them was Love and Logics, choice is power, thinking words, not fighting words. So if you want to look that up, or if you want us to send you that, super helpful, because we've got to go into power. The best way to gain back power, remember, that's how to get out of the crisis, is choices. So for kids, they need choices, and there's limits, and then there's choices. Here's the limits, here's your 2 choices. So that's a whole other book, but I've got that referenced at the end of this PowerPoint of that book, of teen Love and Logics, and just Love and Logics regular for kids. And how we do thinking words instead of fighting words. I just want fighting words right now. I mean, it's like, we're so on edge that's why our brain fight or freeze. So that's fighting words. When we're in the back of the brain, in the midbrain, we're going to use those a lot more when we don't have the coping skills. And this is why we have to prevent burnout, because burnout turns us into a lot more of the fight, flight, or freeze. 2 days of not sleeping, we could possibly have dementia symptoms. So what happens is 2 days, that's all it takes. So if we don't get REM sleep for 2 days. So those are some things about why we go into fighting words instead of thinking words. Reassurance. So I read a lot of research and some articles about how to deal with your kids' questions. So modeling emotions by validation and empathy. Okay, so I call it, it's not about the shoes. I do this with couples all the time. It's not about the shoes. So meaning it's not about the question. It is not about the question. So when a kid says lots of questions, when are we going back to school? When can I see grandpa? When can I go play with my friends? What about my birthday? Why can't I have a birthday party? My birthday's next month and I'm dying. I'm like, April. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like I have dinner with my friends. I have dinner with my family. I have dinner with my, I always meet somewhere for a party. Like we're not, last year I went roller skating. I mean, like I had everyone go to the roller skating rink with me. I can't do that. So the unknowns, right? So here's a birthday party. Okay, this is what we're going to do instead. Go back to number 1 and creative play new traditions. So we're going to just have to figure that out. But the questions are, when am I going to be able to do this? What's happening? And littler kids, I get reports from clients that the smaller kids from like 7 and under are doing okay with this. They're just like, okay, but the older ones, the worry is in their brain, right? The worry. So what happens with worry is we go into a little generalized anxiety of what's going to happen. So here's the questions. What's going to happen? So model the emotion by validation, empathy. So what I mean by the reassurance is it's not about the question. So when this is an example, I'm really afraid to go to sleep tonight because what if we have another earthquake? Okay, so the question is, I'm afraid to go to sleep, or it's, what if we have another earthquake, ? So you have to validate the emotion and the empathy right there. It is not about the question, answering the question. It's not about the question and answering it, because we don't need to fix it, because we don't know. We are not going to promise things. We're just going to sit in that space and say, so you're worried about having another earthquake, and it sounds like you're having trouble sleeping. So you just state, you validate, and then say, wow, how much are you worrying about this? And what have you tried? And so it's like, they can come up with some solutions, of course, but it's not about fixing it. So just sit in the question. So when I'm doing play therapy in here in my office, and I have a kid that comes to me and says, hey, will you open this? Will you get this? Can I play with that? And all I say back to them is, you're wondering if you can have me open the Play-Doh. And they just look at me and they're like, yeah. And I'm like, so you really want me to open the Play-Doh? Yeah. And they hold the Play-Doh, and this is a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, and I says, oh, and it looks like you're trying. So I just state what they're doing, no correction. And I've said this in other, parenting classes, no correction and no fixing. And so you just sit with it. And I don't need to fix it for them. I don't need to correct them, and I don't need to open it for them. And within 30 seconds, 99% of the time, they have it open on their own. So what does that do? It gives them power. So I don't rescue. So that's what that is. I just validate. And then if they're sad, I have empathy. And I'm like, I understand, man. I see that you're sad. I can sit in your space. And the shame resilient parenting class that I did 2 times ago, or was that last month, and then the Love and Logics, it talks about that a lot. It talks about the empathy and how to sit in the kid's space. You just sit in their space, and that means you got to be present. So the next part is reward. So setting up a new reward system by your child's love language, and I've got that book referenced too, so you can look that up if you don't know your child's love language. But what happens is we need reward. So here's the reward at the end of homework, at the end of your jobs, at the end of the routine, at the end of the week, whatever you as a family decide to set up. It's super, super important that the brain has some stability in that routine with a reward. You have to add a reward. So that doesn't mean that they get, it's just a reward. It's you get to play on the computer for 10 minutes. You get to play outside for 10 minutes. You do 50 minutes of homework, and here's your reward. And then resilience. I found some art. Kids are resilient. We've heard of that. We're resilient. We are blessed Americans. We're resilient. So instill hope by telling the story of whatever the story is that you can do. The hope is that, hey, this is the story. We're safe. We're this. The story of resilience. The story of, how can we help each other get through this? How can we be on routine? We're all in this is a value system. So it's just your story. Everyone, will do this better than I can for your own kids, is instill hope. And hope has to come from within, and then you model it from the outside, if that makes sense. So let's move on to needs. So here's our balance, okay? So when we've got physical needs, this is Maslow's hierarchy. And he forgot one. When I teach this and talk about this in another class, I always add one because he forgot one in the 40s and 50s when he came out with this in an article for a school project. He was at a university. And so here's our physical needs: food, shelter, water, and clothing and sleep and air, right? He forgot health insurance on there. But we in America, we need health insurance. So that's a need that, we would be really in trouble in some area, in some times where we didn't have health insurance. So we're up at the safety right now. Okay. So hopefully your needs are met. And right now we can have those needs met for our kids. So safety. So this is where we aren't feeling too safe, right? Because our brain doesn't know how to wrap itself around this unseen crisis or pandemic or virus or whatever you want to call it. So we have to know, and that's just on there just for your knowledge of reminding ourselves that we have to go through these steps. Really, it's scientific. And then we can feel loved and belonged, and then I have a self-esteem, and I have strength and freedom and respect. And then I have a self-concept, which is the top one, the desire to be the most that I can be. And I can see how other people view me. That's a self-concept of the whole thing. So just for a little tip there. Okay, so here's our balance. Gosh, maybe, in your video, you can raise your hand and decide which one of these you're out of balance in. I am definitely emotional, spiritual. I've tried to add to physical. I'm so socially, I've just completely, right? So I feel like overnight, my 3 balances have completely been disrupted. So I have to remember, okay, where's my emotional and spiritual balance? What do I do? Do I journal? Do I get grounded? Do I connect? Do I sit in my emotions? And those are all things that you can do. Physical, sleep, diet, exercise, I'm pretty good at, but I'm not, yeah. It's like, oh, I got to go walk outside. Okay, I can go work outside. I can go, oh, it's raining, So, overnight, right? And what I'm having reports from, I made cookies last night and I put gobs of chocolate chips in them. And I'm like, wow, I put a lot of chocolate chips in those cookies. And so I'm like, oh, those are going to be good to eat like 3 or 4, in between clients. And then like, at night, because we're craving sugar, we're craving little snacks, we're at home, we're a little bit, we're nesting in our, so that's what I've had reported is people are like, I feel like I'm just snacking on sugar and I just want to eat all the time. So, and sleep, we're going to talk about. Sleep is essential. So, social, we're going to get creative with that. Social. I am such a social person and I feel depleted. So I know my clients are feeling depleted. I know my clients' kids are feeling, depleted in social, community, friends. How are we doing this being quarantined and 6 feet away? And so of course there's lots of creative stuff that I'm going to give to you for this balance, because this is a whole family. This is your kids. This is you. We got to stay in balance as much as possible, like I said, because that prevents burnout. And then, of course, chronic burnout that goes into a long-term stuff. Okay, so let's start with physical balance. So sleep. I'm having lots of people report that they're not sleeping. So they're not getting REM sleep and they're waking up. If this is you, I think this is pretty typical. This is what's going to happen is we're a little bit more sensitive. So as we're falling asleep, I'm having lots of reports of like falling asleep and because of the little rumble of the earthquake and the aftershocks, right? So what we have is a panic and depression immediately after we're not sleeping for 2 or 3 days. So these are just some tips for sleep, okay? My number one thing is sleep for physical balance. And my number one thing is physical balance, because if you don't have physical balance, we can't get into the social, emotional, and mental very much. So this is essential. So bedtime routine. I just have 3 little things on there. Number one, and if you're ever in my office and you're one of my clients, you will know this with your kids, is you only sleep in your bed. So this is, we're going to just discount that kids are sleeping in their mom's beds right now. I've had a couple that, they won't sleep in their own bed. So just get through it. Just do the best you can with that kind of stuff. But you want your kids in their own bed, in their own environment, with their own brain, connected to their own environment. Okay. So it's super, super important to keep that routine. They're scared. Yes. So validate that, sit with that, and then come up with a solution. Okay. So do you want me to be in here with you for 15 minutes? Do you want this? Do you want that? And then here's your 2 choices, but you got to stay in your bed. So bed tips, sleep only in the bed. So that means no reading in the bed, no eating in the bed, no journaling in the bed, no watching TV in the bed, no anything in the bed. It's only, so when we want to do all that over here, so I have people get a beanbag, a comfy chair, a pillow, and it's over here in the corner, and that's where you get to read. That's where you get a snuggle with your kid, or in a rocking chair, right? You're going to put your kid in a rocking chair and you're going to read them a story, and then they go to bed. After everything else, their bedtime routine is regular. So just make bed not about worry, not about reading a book, not about everything else. So we don't want to associate sleep with worry, because that's what will happen. Magnesium. There is child form magnesium. There is gummies. There is spray that you can get on Amazon that you can spray on your feet or on a sore muscle. Magnesium is a natural sleep aid, muscle relaxer. It helps everything else absorb into your bones and blood. It keeps your heart in rhythm. It is one of the things that we are extremely depleted in because we don't drink out of streams anymore. we don't get we don't get the minerals we need because we don't drink out of streams. So good thing. But so magnesium's another one. It's just a calming, right? It helps you stay asleep. Just look that up, look up the dosages, find what you need. But there's Calm and CALM in magnesium. That's a drink. That's the citrate kind. That's the best kind. You can add that to a drink or a tea or a little, chocolate milk at night, whatever. And you add that in, and that's their magnesium. So the other part is so now we've gotten into bed, we've taken some magnesium, we've done a couple of these things. Now, if a kid or you stays in your bed for more than 20 minutes and you can't fall asleep, you must get out of the bed. That's what that means. Get out after 20 minutes. So we need to get out of our bed. So once again, over in that corner where there's Play-Doh and reading and something to play with and something to draw, something to write your emotions down on, that's what we do outside the bed when we can't sleep. We don't want to associate laying in bed, awake, worrying, or doing something else with sleep. So you got to get out of your bed to do all those things and then get back in your bed after a few minutes or maybe even an hour after you've read or done something as an adult. Then you go back and try to fall asleep again.
Hey,
Hope
Carol,
that makes sense.
Would you recommend that for kids too, or
Absolutely.
so
a young child of 4, 5, and 6 is not going to know how to do that, right? But you're going to train them to do that. So if they come and get you in the middle of the night, or I have several parents have a baby monitor in their small toddlers or 4-year-olds room, and so when they're crying or waking up with nightmares or worries or I can't sleep or the covers or there's a monster and then we got to get the bat out and beat the bed to get rid of the monster. But you do that outside. So don't lay and cuddle with them in the bed. So sit over here, talk about it, do everything, and then teach your kid to go over here and read or do something, and then come back in the bed. But when they're little like that, you just have to coach them and help them with that. And sometimes you just have to go out on the couch with them. That's the best, and just go out on the couch and say, okay, let's draw, let's color, let's read. Let me rub your head for a minute, lay on my lap. You know what I mean? So, and we're going to talk about it. And then if they do fall asleep, then you're going to carry them back to their bed when they're that little, So yeah, does that make sense?
Can I ask a quick question on that?
Yeah.
So, because we have a 6-year-old, and so she's kind of going backwards with that right now. Like, she doesn't want to go to sleep without us. She's screaming, tantrums, and it's to the point where we don't know what to do, and she just keeps crying. So, is getting her out of bed, because she has a dual room with her brother, getting her out of the room away from him, like coloring, even if it's like 9 o'clock at night, is that a good idea then?
Absolutely. Yep. Because if she's having trauma, we don't want trauma associated with sleep. We don't want trauma associated with sleep or worry, so we want to do it outside of that room. So you got to have a routine though still, but you got to do those things. So you try to put her to bed, and then she throws a fit going to bed, right? So then we have to get out of that room. So the power rooms, this is all about power, is bathroom, kitchen, and bedroom. So bedroom is sleep. We will either sleep or we'll sleep too much. We'll either fight sleep, or we won't sleep or we'll sleep too much. So what happens with children is that is a power struggle, right? That's a power room. So we'll sleep or we'll sleep too much when we're depressed, and teenagers like, oh, they sleep too much. Kitchen, we'll eat, we'll struggle, with diet and what's in front of us and feeding, or we won't, right? Or we'll eat too much. And then bathroom, we'll revert back to potty training or not potty training, or teenagers, doing things in the bathroom we're not supposed to be doing. That's a power room. So these are power rooms. So we want to make sure they stay. We have really confused our brain with taking food in front of the TV, right? So that's kitchen, or taking food to our room. Then we've mixed up those rooms, and our brain hasn't been designated for just those things. So it's not tantrum. So that's why I never, ever, ever, that's a never, have in a situation where a child is in trouble and they have a timeout, it's never in their room. Because now you're associating being in trouble a timeout on their room, and their room is only for sleep. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you. One more quick question. So if we take her out and she's coloring, great. How long do you suggest though? Then it's like, okay, this is too much now.
It's up to you. For a 6-year-old, you can set the timer. So I'm going to go over this thing. Next is the exercise, so you set the timer and you say, okay, so you're going to have your emotional meltdown, your emotional space for the next 10 minutes. What would you like to do? This or this? Play with Play-Doh or color. We're going to talk about emotions, or we're going to scribble emotions on a whiteboard. So we're going to get it out before we go back into the room, because that's what we need. She's just feeling very unsafe and very unsure and very misunderstood. So we have to emotionally coach that. And then it's like, so she can self-regulate that. What you're doing, and I'm going to show you all these ideas in a minute, is helping them self-regulate their brain. We have to calm down. But what happens is, you and I, everyone knows, is that what happens at night. That is when we worry, we have trauma, we get anxious, we have panic attacks like at night, and then we can't sleep. It's not first thing in the morning. It's not at noon. It's at night. And that's when tantrums will happen more. It's a power struggle because the brain is burned out by the end of the day.
And what about, okay, so say you take them out and you do that, and then they go back in the room and they start freaking out again. You just keep
You take them back out.
doing it. Okay.
And then hopefully they get smaller, shorter, and you've now, taught the child that that's not where we're going to do it. And in Love and Logics, one of the last parenting classes I did, it's like, here you can throw a fit, but you can do it here or here, but it's not going to be, at the kitchen table when we're all eating, or it's not going to be in your room, but you can choose this place or this place. And sometimes you can just leave them in that spot, to just let them have that emotion, but because they've chosen, to do that. And that's okay. We don't want them to stuff their emotions. We want to volcano it out at times, and that's okay. As long as, you think I'm crazy, but as long as here's my bar and everybody's, and has to be, is you can't hurt yourself or others. So that's a whole different situation. If some kid is banging their head or kicking or, throwing stuff at somebody, that's not okay, because that's domestic violence. So diet. This is why, okay, so sleep, bedroom, diet, kitchen. So these are 2 power rooms, okay? So we'll have power. What do we have power over? Well, we don't have very much power over things. So kids will start having issues with eating, and they don't want to eat anything healthy. And we're trying to, and here we are, we're at home, we're doing takeout kind of, but not really. And we're shopping and we're eating dinner at home. Hopefully, one of the best things that can ever happen statistically. Years and years ago, in the 70s, we had family dinner statistics. When I was in my family studies undergrad, of course, family dinner was essential. So I have this little graph here about how, eating dinner so many times per week helps prevent underage drinking, of course, right? And a lot of other things. Just gobs of things. So do your best with that. Take turns putting others in charge. So I feel like, I'm a mom. I have 3 kids, 2 grandkids, and I raised 25 foster kids. And I went to school and worked jobs, several jobs, and I had quite a routine about dinner time. So it was like, this is dinner time. This is what is happening at this time. And everyone had a night that they helped cook dinner or helped put away dinner or something like that. And they had that same night every single day of the week, and it didn't change unless something happened and then you changed it. And I also did jobs that way. 1 job per child per month. So they had 1 job for the whole month. If it was garbage at floors or dishes or vacuuming or whatever, bathrooms, so they had 1 job for the whole month. And by the end of the month, they kind of actually learned how to do it. They actually could kind of do it after I had them redo it a couple times. It's like, nope, this is how you got to make sure you take all the garbage out in the whole house. You forgot this bathroom or that bathroom. And so then you coach them through that. And it's super easy because then the next week we're like, oh, Johnny didn't do, the garbages last week because he was gone. And now I'm not going to do them because he didn't do them, So no, it's just the whole month. So that's just a good tip that I learned a long time ago from someone else. But so it's all about jobs and helping, right? So if their job is to help cook it and, maybe find the menu and the recipe, and then one kid is to set the table and clear the table. And that's every Tuesday night. And then, or every Wednesday night, it's, this person, or so this, we're so overwhelmed. We're being teachers, we're being therapists, we're being, maids, we're being servants, and all of a sudden we've got quarantine going on. We're doing multiple jobs, and I feel like very quickly we won't have a break, right? So I'm going to teach you a little self-care about that. And that was Justin's class last week that I have the PowerPoint on about self-care during a pandemic. So movement, exercise. Besides sleep, exercise in statistics is the best thing to prevent and to maintain a balanced lifestyle. So, okay, the gym's out, sports are out, exercise inside and out. It's raining, snowing today. I was like, oh gosh, it's like so cold out there. So I found movement apps. I don't know if you can Google on your your app store movement apps. So there's a whole bunch of kids apps that I found. It was really fun of how to move. And so you can say, okay, for 10 minutes, we're going to do a movement app and we're going to get up and move. And, without exercise, our immune system will tank. That's very scientific. Gaming. Anybody want to talk about gaming? How are you battling gaming? Because it's a problem. Anybody have a gamer that you can't get off the game or can't, they throw a fit when you say, okay, it's homework time, or you've gamed enough or whatever. Anybody have a gamer?
Yep.
Okay, what's going on? Any tips?
No tips just yet.
Okay.
And yeah, everything, just working from home for me and school from home for them, and it's just tempting. My son had a little breakdown this morning once he was trying to do school because I think he knew the iPad was right there for him to play Roblox. And
Right.
so he's like, but I want to do that, but this is the way school is going to be now at home. So
Right.
there's the constant, but it's right there.
It's right there. Okay, so this whole PowerPoint and when I was doing this PowerPoint, and I had kind of like another client kind of was talking about this, and it's about focus on what's right in front of you. So kids will focus on what's right in front of them. We will focus on what's right in front of them, in front of you, in front of me, if you're super present, if you've practiced this, but we need to practice it more. What's right in front of us right now? Look at what's in front of you right now. If there is a gaming console, if there's a TV right there, and here's my homework right here, it's really hard to say, oh, wait, I want a game. I want to watch TV. Structure is not in my brain right now because our kids' brains times 1,000 are very confused. So gaming, I could go over gaming and statistics on that. There's good and bad. There's, I just know what mirroring is. And when we're mirroring and we're gaming for too long, our brain thinks that we're doing it. And so what happens is our brain thinks we're doing it. That's it. Our brain doesn't know the difference if we're doing something or if we're pretending or if we're actually doing it. So just watch the violence of games and the extended amount of time, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So what's right in front of you, and so you've got to get creative about where you do homework. super creative about where you do homework. Physical balance. Yeah, go ahead.
So right now is our spring break, and I don't know how else to let them have social time. Does that make sense? Because they're
Right.
not being able to be with their friends. They're not, everything's so different. So how do we handle that? Because
So yeah, so it's like, okay, we had all this planned. We were gonna do a road trip. We're gonna do a cruise. We're gonna do Disneyland. I mean, I'm like a Lagoon Pass, like, annual pass gal. This year I didn't buy one for me, but I have one for. I mean, it's like there's nothing to do. There's nothing to go do, and this is gonna be okay because actually we're gonna have to get creative. So yes, it is quite a crisis. Marco Polo apps are my favorite, FaceTime with your grandparents. So I don't know. I really don't know. We're stuck at home during spring break. There's no really homework. And we do need to give our kids that break because that's an allotted break for spring break, right? And some of us are coming up on that. So that's a good question because what do we do with social time? So it's outside. Number one, right? It's close, not close quarters, but one at a time here and there, and just do the best you can. That's up to your moral code in your family and how that looks like and how, susceptible. If you've got a kid with asthma, that kid is not going to be around to anybody. Asthma's higher, so just keeping them safe. And that's really unfamiliar and unknown and unseen. It's really disappointing that we have to cut out that social stuff. And then you're going to start, and then siblings are just going to start hating each other because it's like, oh my gosh, I just want somebody else to play with. I want someone else to look at. So let's think about that. And maybe at the end, if anyone has any good ideas. But the physical balance, now I'm just going to leave this up here for a minute and I'm going to move on. I'm such a so I have a list right here in my drawer that has the supplements for mental health. Okay, so the apple cider vinegar and the turmeric is not on there. The rest are, right? And your omega-3s I didn't put on there, but so these are essential. Okay, so just know I don't do vitamin C. I do apple cider vinegar instead. Dr. Berg talks a lot about that on YouTube if you want to look him up. There's levels for kids. Vitamin D3 is essential right now for our immune system and our physical balance. You will never get it from the sun. I don't care if we go outside now and spend 6 hours in the sun. You'll never get enough absorption of vitamin D3. You have to take it. So vitamin 3 is 5,000 IUs for adults and less for kids. So you just have to figure that out yourself. I can't, but I am a clinician and I understand how these work and I understand how these work on the brain. Zinc is good for a healthy immune system, but also in mental health, it's for an appetite. It's a healthy appetite. If you've got a kid that's kind of like, I don't really have an appetite, I just kind of feel sick because I'm having so much anxiety about this, earthquake. So I just don't have an appetite. Yeah. B6 is just your essential B complex. And like I talked about magnesium, that's at night. All these are day, magnesium's at night because it's a natural muscle relaxer, sleep aid, brings everything down. So, okay, mental. So this is where we get into the mental part of creative for homework, screen time is limited. So because it's not just limited. So I have to, like what I was explaining is a good distraction is 10 minutes to 1 hour. So let the kiddo have a distraction. Have us do a distraction. And for an adult, it's 2 hours. It's 10 minutes to 2 hours. So if you have a distraction that is set up and it's planned, and here's your distraction, and it also can be a reward system, right? So here's our reward system with the distraction. You get to do this for 10 minutes to an hour after you get jobs done or homework done or whatever. Avoidances are 2 hours plus, but for kids, it's 1 hour plus. So if you're gaming for more than 1 hour, if you're watching Netflix for more than 1 hour, if you're if you're on YouTube for more than 1 hour with your teenagers and stuff, it is now an avoidance. Our brain is gonna go to avoidances because we're in a crisis of powerless. So sometimes we'll just shut down. The timer, these are the boss. So it's the timer, not, you know, so you set the timer, make these your boss, not you, not mommy as the boss. Make these the boss. We're going to do this for 10 minutes. I will sit with you and read while you're scared with you and snuggle with you over here on the couch for 10 minutes. And then we're going to go try to get in our bed. So this is a safe place. Create a safe place spot. So I went to Smith's last night and I found it. I thought, I don't know if Smith's has it. I don't, you know, it's like, I'm going to go. So I have my hula hoop. So this is a safe space. So in therapy, I put my arms out like this and say, okay, where's your hula hoop? Well, now I went and bought one because I haven't had one for a long time since my kids were little. So here's your safe space. So when you're doing homework or like playtime and you've got smaller kids at home, so I have kids in here and at home, put your hula hoop on the ground and whatever's in your hula hoop is your space and you get to play with whatever's in your hula hoop. And if kids can't keep their hands to themselves and they feel like they're just, and this safe space is not working, you get a hula hoop and they carry around. Like, so if people have to get in your hula hoop, they have to get up in your face like this. So your hula hoop is this big, like it is this big of your space, right? So if you can get these kids to learn that they have power over their space and not someone's going to come bug you, or, and this is just head to toe, right? So if you sit on the floor and put your homework in here and you're playing or whatever, no one can get in your hula hoop without permission. So if you have to ask for permission for a hug, you have to ask permission for touch, you have to ask for permission. And it's really just a good concept to teach kids anyways, right? To have safe space. So that's one, that's the hula hoop. I have emotional cards. So you go through emotions with these. I have charts of emotions. You can print those off too. So these are all the emotions that you can go through and say, okay, which one are you having today? So it's just emotional awareness, a desk for your safe place, a stress bag. You go to the dollar store, you fill up your little bag with 5 senses, okay? But the next thing that I found too that was a really great idea that, and I don't have a picture of it, but make a sign. Make a sign for your door, mommies and daddies. Make a sign that says, and the sign says, mom's on a call, don't disturb. Or while you're working from home, I don't care if you want to put it on your forehead. Just, this is called self-discipline. We have to teach our kids that they have to delay gratification. So you're going to have to wait a minute until I can get to you. And you have to say, excuse me. You have to say, nope, mom's on a call, or there's a sign up. So we're helping with the distractions. We're helping with discipline. We're helping with boundaries. We're helping with everything. Just put up signs. And then they can have signs. I'm doing my homework. Please don't disturb me. This is my hour to do my homework, and then I'm going to be done. So anything that you can go get your 5 senses. So 5 senses, you got to make sure you have taste and smell in there. And they can go in their little corner and have a safe space to do their 5 senses bag or their angry bag or their stress bag or their happy bag. And you can put things in that bag and label it as happy bag. You get to go play with your happy bag. Oh wait, I'm stressed out. Here's my stress bag. It has, you know, a stress ball and Play-Doh. And this is the other things that are good. So these are, I still, you know, chopsticks when I go get Chinese. And so these are coloring, right? Of course, that have all different like spots that you can just trace, right? So I use these in the office, but these are tracers. So I use chopsticks if it's not too pointy for a young baby or kiddo. But so this is just a grounding activity, okay? So you can have them do this for 5 minutes and it pulls themselves back to here. It's a frontal lobe thing. So it's got different, you know, you could just do any kind of shapes, but I just do the coloring books. But you start and you just trace and you just trace and you just trace and you trace and you trace. And I just like these wooden sticks because they're chopsticks and they're easy, and it has good, you're touching something, but you just trace. And so you just sit there and you trace and you trace and you trace until you can't trace anymore. Though that's a mindful, a grounded activity that you can do when someone's stressed out, or you can do when you're stressed out. So social balance, I'm not gonna have much time for this, but here's some ideas, right? Got to get creative. There's just social distancing, so that does not mean social disconnect. We still can talk on the phone. We can write letters. I thought we're going to write letters to our grandparents, or we're going to write letters to people that are away from us, out of the state, out of the country, you know, because we can't visit them. And we were going to go visit somebody for spring break. So we're going to all sit down and write letters. We're going to get old school, get real old school, you know. And then here's the new school, right? I mean, get creative. And we've got Marco Polo for the new school. And the old school is like write letters and connect with people as much as you can. Your emotional observe is what we have to do first. So our emotional, spiritual go together, and we have to just observe and train our kids to understand what they're feeling. It's not to do anything about it. It's just to label it. And then to release our fight or flight and go, okay, wait, how do I get to my frontal lobes? How do I, you know, and that's that activity, that's daily recording. That's just things that will help us figure out what we are feeling and what is going on, not why, because we don't know why. I mean, we can guess, but we don't really know why. And then the next part is just experience. This is the only two steps of how to get our emotional intelligence back. You try not to block it. Don't stuff and judge. Be a witness to it. Be present. 5 senses. So that's your 5 senses back again. Getting into your 5 senses will get you emotionally aware. And then no shame. All emotions are good signs. And next month, which is in like a couple of weeks, my next parenting class is how to teach emotional intelligence and emotional coaching. So that's going to be the whole hour. So that's going to be super awesome. And there's my book references. So, and that last one, the Gottman, Raising an Emotionally Intelligent Child, is what I'm teaching next month. So, how's everyone doing? We're on time. We're out of time, but we're good. So that was a good run. Anybody want to borrow my hula hoop?
Yeah, and a lot of you sent in some questions while I was taking roll, and so I haven't had a chance to ask them. They kind of got lost in the mix. So if you have a question you still want to ask, send it again to me and I can ask right now. Before we get to the questions that we do have, just a reminder, I think I got most of you marked down as being here so I can send you the recording. If you don't receive it in the next few days, just send me an email and I'll get it over to you. And a lot of you on here signed in with your UID. So if you can send me a private chat with your name that you logged in with, and we'll get you on there. So let me look at the question. See what we have. I know somebody asked, is tracing, like color tracing, good for adults too?
Yes, absolutely. It's one of the, it's a grounding thing. So you can, so this is an adult, you know, coloring book, you know, so I have one that I have like, you know, different pictures in, they're really detailed, and I have like, you know, gel pens, and it's just sitting there for a minute and I'm just grounding yourself, and it just gets you present, right? Focus on what's in front of you. So put something in front of you that you want to just focus on for a minute, and it just, there's nothing else.
Awesome. And then someone asked, is there a minimum age that putting a sign on the door, mom is working, will work at? So
nope.
Children.
So I would just do pictures. Mom's on the phone. So, you know, as long as they're being watched somehow, we're trying to juggle all of this. It's like, if someone's falling in the toilet or someone's, you know, choking on something, let us know, you know, but so talk to your kids about what is emergencies and what is not okay. So boundaries, right? So this is A, B, and C. If it gets to, you know, if this is A, B, and then C is, you know, you can make me a sticky note and hand it to me. So that's your boundary. So you have your kid hand you a sticky note when you're on the phone. Mom, I really need you, or this is an A or B or C or a 1, 2, or 3 or a 5-star. So whatever, the hot topic is if it's a 5-star, then I'm sorry, I'm going to have to call you right back and you hang up the phone. You know what I mean? So just teach your kids what boundaries are, and they can't just, interrupt all the time because they want instant gratification.
And that's it. I haven't got any other questions coming in, so I think we will go ahead and end it. So thank you everyone for joining us, and we will hopefully see you tomorrow.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.